5 years. That's how long I spent starting over. Gym for a bit, fall off, start a new job, gym disappears. Same thing with diet. It goes well for a few weeks, but the same cycle in a different month. And the same excuse every single time, the shifts. And if you're telling yourself the same thing right now, then this is for you. Because I wasn't being lazy, I was in the gym, I was trying, I genuinely wanted it, I just couldn't make it stick. So eventually I accepted this probably can't be done while I'm working shifts like this. I was wrong, but not in the way that I expected to be. And what I figured out after 5 years of the same cycle is what I want to share with you right now. So this started when I was about 16. I'd tried running, I'd tried eating healthier, scrambled eggs on toast for lunch, the usual stuff that you see online, and none of it really worked. I couldn't lose any weight. So when I turned 17, I joined the gym. But at the same time, I was in college, working shifts at a pub to earn a bit of pocket money on the side. And already the consistency just wasn't there. I'd go for a few weeks and then just fall off because I'd picked up a few extra shifts or because I was just too tired from college and work combined. On and off constantly, never quite building any momentum. And then I went full time in a new kitchen and the gym just completely fell off the grid. And just as I started clawing back some semblance of routine, an opportunity came up to go and work in the Alps for 5 months. Obviously there was no gym there and I was on pastry, so I was making afternoon teas every day and pretty much eating them every single day as well. So I came back to the UK heavier than I'd ever been in my life. And at this point I wanted it more than I ever had. Partly because of how much weight I'd gained while I was away, but partly because I was just fed up with myself. And for a while it was working. I was more consistent than I was before, and I got back to roughly the same sort of place with my physique and my weight loss journey, but I couldn't push past that point. I couldn't make any further progress no matter what I tried. And it was the shifts. Being surrounded by food all day, staff meals that were chips and burgers, weekends that blew up whatever structure I'd managed to build through the week. Getting to the gym was still a nightmare. The rota rarely lined up the way that I needed it to, and the windows I had for the gym were just getting smaller and smaller. I distinctly remember Googling, how do you lose weight when you work shifts? Just trying to find someone who'd maybe figured it out, but there was nothing. It wasn't even a conversation that existed online, which told me something. Not that I needed to approach it differently, but that it probably just couldn't be done at all. But then I heard that a 24-hour gym would be opening soon nearby, and I thought, right, that's it. That's the missing piece. I can train after my shifts. Whenever I finish, it doesn't even matter what time. This is going to change everything. It opened up, and out of every 5 times that I tried to get there after a shift, I'd maybe go once, if that, because I was too tired, or I just couldn't face it after a day of being on my feet for 12 hours. So eventually I did accept it. It couldn't be done, not with these shifts. I'd either have to find a new job, or I'd have to put my goals on the back burner for a while until I was ready to give them my full attention. But then lockdown happened, and my first thought was, what a disaster. The gyms are closed. How am I meant to make progress while all this is happening? But then I realized this is my chance. There's no shifts. I can get consistent sleep every single night. I'm not going to be surrounded by food all the time. There's no temptation. There's none of the usual chaos. So all of the barriers that had been stopping me for the last 5 years were just gone. So I followed the same process that I'd always tried. Tracked my calories, trained with the equipment that I had at home, got my steps in. Same approach, just without the shifts getting in the way this time. And it finally worked. The scale started moving. I was taking photos every Monday and I could see myself actually getting leaner week by week. People around me were all baking banana bread and drinking through the lockdown, and fair enough, I get it, it's time off. But I was seeing results for the first time ever. Actual, visible results that I never thought were possible. And honestly, it felt too good to be true. I'd look in the mirror and just be in awe. After 5 years of it not working, seeing it actually work felt incredible. I just couldn't stop. But here's what I didn't see at the time. The only reason it worked was because the barriers had disappeared. I hadn't figured out anything. The shifts went away and now the process worked. Simple as that. And if that had been the end of the story, I wouldn't have learned anything. But it took me until after lockdown, when I was trying to make it work with the shifts again, for it to actually land. The process wasn't wrong, the fit was. I'd been trying to force a highly structured routine, the kind that works brilliantly for someone working 9 to 5 with a predictable work schedule, not surrounded by food all day, into shift work, where none of those things are true. 5 days a week in the gym, eating the same every day. That works when your week is predictable, but it falls apart the second that your rota changes. So it wasn't the shift work that made it impossible. It was that I was trying to ignore the shift work instead of designing something around it. there was a fundamental mismatch between the approach that I was using and the constraints that I actually had. And instead of changing the approach, I just kept trying harder. That's the bit that I wish I'd seen earlier, the wrong approach for the wrong context. But the second thing I learned is something nobody really talks about, and it's the fact that you don't really need motivation, not in the way that people think anyway. Everyone around me in lockdown was asking the same question. How are you so motivated right now? This is time to switch off, relax, you're off work for God's sake. And early on, I didn't really have a very good answer. I was just doing it. But then the scale started moving and I could see my physique changing week by week, and something shifted. It stopped being about willpower and it became automatic because I could actually see the direct line between what I was putting in and the results that I was getting out of it. That relationship of effort in, visible results out, it made the decision for me every single time. That's the version of motivation that actually works, not the kind that you have to manufacture at 6 a.m. The kind that comes from already being in motion and not wanting to stop. The best possible motivation is seeing results from your efforts. And what that taught me for later, for when I mapped this back onto my shifts, was this. Make your results visible as early as you possibly can. Get the process working quickly enough that you can see something happening. Because once you see it working, consistency stops being such a struggle. And the third thing is something that I learned the hard way. Yes, I got lean in lockdown. I lost quite a lot of weight. And I remember looking at the photos that I was taking every week and thinking, yeah, I look pretty good. But looking back at them now, and even at the time, to be honest, part of me kind of knew that I just looked small, skinny even. And the reason was pretty simple. All I had at that time was some adjustable dumbbells. I was limited with the amount of weight that I had. There wasn't a robust way for me to progressively get stronger over time. Eventually I hit that limit. So I was doing everything I could to make the scales move, cardio, steps, diet, but I probably wasn't building any muscle. I was just about maintaining what I already had. And contrast that to every time before lockdown, where I just tried to run or just tried to diet. None of those things stuck either. It only really clicked, both in terms of getting results and the process actually sticking, when all three of those pieces were working together. Lifting, eating, and movement, not just one of them at a time. Because here's what lifting does that cardio and dieting alone don't. You get this second track of progress, not just the scales going down, but seeing yourself getting stronger in the gym or with the weights you're using every single week. And when you're getting results from two directions at once, staying consistent becomes almost effortless. So after lockdown, that's what I did. I took those 3 lessons and I built a version of the process that would actually fit around my shifts. I trained 2 or 3 days a week instead of 5. I used a handful of staple meals instead of trying to eat perfect all week. And I kept it simple enough that a bad week at work wouldn't completely throw me under the bus. And it worked, because this time the approach actually fit the shifts. I wasn't forcing something into my life that wasn't going to work. Now, how to actually build that as a chef, the specific structure, the meals, the training, how to handle the chaos of a kitchen week, that's a whole other video in itself. And you can watch that here. But the starting point, the thing that I wish someone had told me back when I was Googling how to lose weight when you work shifts, is this. The shifts aren't the problem. The approach that ignores the shifts is. And this video solves it. Go watch it.